430, Daniel Kawczynski.
Thank you very much, Mr. Deputy Speaker. As the sole Conservative Member of Parliament to have been born in a communist country, I know what the Russians are capable of on our continent. And I remember returning to Poland to see my beloved grandfather in 1983 when martial law was finally lifted, and saw at first hand what the Russians did to the country of my birth in the coercion and manipulation and control of this country of Central and Eastern Europe. And yet today we see a different form of manipulation on our continent by the Russians. And there is no greater manifestation of that for me than the Nord Stream 2 pipeline. I have tried to raise this issue on a number of occasions and had a debate last year on the Nord Stream 2 pipeline. There seems to be little appetite, however, from our own government to take a lead on our continent in terms of stopping this project. And I feel that it is now a missed opportunity. We have heard many times about the current poor American leadership and the flip-flopping that has occurred by President Biden on this issue of Nord Stream, and indeed the pandering of President Biden to Germany and others in allowing this pipeline to materialize. Of course, it gives the Russians unprecedented access to the very heart of our continent and the ability to control and manipulate not only gas prices, the main export commodity, but also in the blackmail and coercion they seek to put countries like Ukraine under, but also our NATO partners, the Baltic states, Poland and others. President Trump, at a breakfast meeting with Jens Stoltenberg when he was President of the United States, made a very interesting comment, and one which I strongly support. What is the purpose of us Americans sending troops and equipment to Central and Eastern Europe when one NATO country, namely Germany, completely ignores and bypasses the spirit and the letter of the law of NATO membership, namely common energy security, common strategy, rather than giving hard cash, hard currency to our main opponent in Moscow, which is then using this money to put rockets, tanks and other aggressive equipment on the borders with Poland and other countries. This is in stark contrast, I have to say, to Poland and Croatia. And I want honourable colleagues to know that Poland has invested billions of dollars in liquefied gas terminal in Świnoujście on the Baltic coast, and so has Croatia. These very sensible NATO partners are taking a lead in demonstrating that if you have the privilege of NATO membership, a situation peculiar to only 30 nations in the world, if you have that privilege, also comes responsibility. And we need to start thinking as NATO partners, how do we ensure that we follow the Polish and Croatian policy, which is to build liquefied gas and to be less dependent on Russian gas? And where do you think the Poles are buying their liquefied gas from? Fellow NATO partners. They're building a pipeline directly to Norway, a fellow NATO partner, to buy their gas from there. They're buying liquefied gas from America, a fellow NATO partner. So these are the sort of examples that other countries like Germany ought to follow. Sweden, Finland, Ukraine and Georgia are the last major countries in Europe that do not have the benefits of NATO membership. And I disagree. I'm very fond of my honourable friend from Gainsborough, but I disagree with him fundamentally on this issue. We need to look as to how to incorporate and support these last four countries in joining the NATO partnership. And of course, this week, Finland, for the first time ever, certainly to my knowledge, has started to talk about potentially joining NATO because of Russia's nefarious conduct in Ukraine. And lastly, Mr. Deputy Speaker, we heard the siren calls when Poland and the Czech Republic joined NATO in '99. It was a step too far. It would cause World War III. We heard those same siren calls in 2004 when Romania and Bulgaria joined NATO. It did not lead to war, and we now need to look to supporting Ukraine and others in joining our organisation.
Wind-ups